on the screen. Lovely. Okay, so welcome everybody. So this is a Twilight webinar that we're recording, and this presentation delivered by our colleagues Ali from Sheffield Hallam University and Damon from the University of Sheffield on transition to HE. We'll be making it into a resource that will be available on the HEB website for any colleagues from schools or colleges who are unable to attend the session live. So without further ado, I will pass on to Ali. The floor is yours.
Thank you very much. If you could pop onto the next slide for me. So I'm Ali and I'm from Sheffield Hallam University, and today we're here to talk to you about transition and why recognising transition for your students going from sixth form or college to university is important. So first off, I've put a little bit of a quote for you on the screen so you can really begin to understand what transition is. And I've done this because it's really important to recognise that as a student transitions from sixth form or college to university, there's going to be some identity formation there whilst their roles change and they gain new responsibilities. And this is really important to recognise because it helps us understand how we can support our students. So if you could go on to the next slide for me. The first thing I wanted us to look at when we understand this transition is look at what students are looking forward to. So transitioning to university can be a very exciting time for lots of different students, and this is really important to recognise because we can help put strategies in there to help motivate them when they are looking at doing their exams that will be coming up, as well as it helps us inform our teaching as well. You can tailor your teaching methods whilst at sixth form or college to the students' motivations to help them succeed within their exams, as well as providing targeted support around any apprehensions they may have. Plus, you can use what they're excited for as part of the transition to enhance engagement as well within any upcoming sessions you may be delivering. So if we could look at the next slide. As important as it is to recognise that the excitements that students may be having towards coming to university, it's equally as important to understand what the students may be worried about. And this is important for us to consider because we can pop in proactive guidance to support the students. It means that their needs could be met earlier rather than later down the line when they are at that moment where they are about to go straight from sixth form, the 6-week holidays, then into university. So if we can be proactive in recognising why the students might be a little bit apprehensive about those worries, we can put in strategies to support them, as well as providing them with different resources where they can go away and do some independent learning about what they may be apprehensive about as well. And it's really important as well to validate that feeling of apprehension. And it might be a good time to start talking to the students about your own experiences of transitioning from sixth form or college to university. So to really contextualise it for the students and recognise that it is a process that a lot of people do go through. So if we could move on to the next slide. What I want to talk to you about now is the different support routes that universities do offer. Now, these ones that you can see on the screen are very Hallam specific. So if you do have any students that are displaying any apprehensions towards going to university, you can provide them with the useful tools and guidance to go and look at the different support services that the universities have. So at Hallam, we have 3 different points of contact. So the first one is an academic advisor. Now, every student has access to an academic advisor. They are typically a member of teaching staff on the course, and you can go to this individual for any support around your educational needs. The second point of contact a student would have is a student support advisor. Now, this person is separate from their course, and they can go to this individual for anything outside of the course that they're studying if they need any guidance at all. That person can signpost them to additional services if that need is there. And then your final advisor, which you get, is an employability advisor. Now, this person is here to support with anything around the course, such as finding work experience or placements, as well as once the student has graduated as well, in terms of finding employment. So it is a very well-rounded package of support which you have at Hallam. However, I am aware that other universities as well have lots of different support systems in place. So it's really important that you make sure that you signpost your students to have a look at all the services different universities provide when looking at support. So if we could move on to the next slide, please. On top of the 3 points of contact which all students have, we also have a wellbeing service at Sheffield Hallam as well. And the reason I wanted to bring this up is because when we go out and about to schools and colleges, we often get questions by students about these. So I really wanted to prepare you if any of your students do start to ask any of these questions about wellbeing services. Now, there's 3 different places that a student can go once they're at Sheffield Hallam. And the first one is our Looking After Yourself services. Now, these are all online resources which the students can access. The second point of contact is the Need Somebody to Talk to services. So as it says in the title, this is a service where students can speak to someone in person. And then the final wellbeing service we have are the wellbeing activities, and these are subject to change. However, we currently have on is our mental health boxing, yoga for wellbeing, as well as a service to connect with the Hallam community. So again, there will be other services like this at other universities as well. These are just the Hallam specific ones, but good to draw your attention to so you can begin signposting your students if they have further questions. Next slide, please.
And that's it. It's over to me. Thank you. So yeah, my name's Damon Gissemi, and I'm an access officer at the University of Sheffield. It's a pleasure to be here this evening. So continuing on the theme of sort of student support and student services, I'm just going to, over the next couple of slides, tell you a little bit about the support that we have available at university. One of the key words that I really want to draw out, and Ali's already mentioned it, is the word independent. Of course, when students are transitioning to university, they really, in a lot of cases, are getting their first taste of independence, the independent decision making, and then everything else that comes along with that. What we really want to emphasize, though, is if students are having sort of apprehensions about sort of, going into the big wide world, a new education setting, there is loads of support available. So as teachers and advisors, it's quite important for you to sort of communicate that when you do pick up on obviously those apprehensions. So I just want to kind of give a nod to some of the support services that we have at the University of Sheffield. So you can see we've got a wide array here from personal tutors, a disability and dyslexia service, to mentors. We've got a career service. We've also got lots of academic support as well. In terms of just a spotlight on a few of these, I want to bring up the English language teaching centre first of all. So again, if at university, if kind of students maybe struggle with the English language, there is that support there. We also have student residence life mentors. So a lot of students in the first year of university, as you'll know, will opt to live in student accommodation. But all first year students have what's called a residence life mentor at the Uni of Sheffield. So essentially what they do is they have a responsibility for your flat, and they will regularly kind of check up on you, not to make sure that you're behaving, but more so check up on you to make sure that you've got the support that you need and everything's going okay with your well-being. And as well, when you first move into that accommodation, they just want to make sure that you're settling in and help alleviate any concerns or any issues that you have. The next thing that I just wanted to flag is the Student Advice Centre. So at the University of Sheffield, we do have this service for students, and essentially, again, we mentioned about students becoming independent. So this advice centre offers comprehensive advice on things such as housing, money, welfare, and it's a completely sort of professional, impartial and confidential service as well. And they will provide advice and guidance on all those types of things, so students do feel really well supported. Next slide, please, Alex. So I just want to do a nod here before I go back to some of the more kind of physical in-person support services we've got at Sheffield. What I wanted to do a little bit of a nod to is the online academic support that we offer at Sheffield as well. And shortly, I'm going to talk about sort of independent learning, the difference between teaching and learning at university when compared to sixth form and college. But what students do have, again, at most universities, but at Sheffield, they do have access to an array of online resources to help them sort of with those new modes of assessments. So depending on their course, they might be doing essays, they might be doing report writing. Again, they'll be doing that using kind of an academic register. This involves using key skills like critical thinking, the ability to evaluate, and of course, it's in a lot of cases going to be more in depth to what they're used to. So what I'm trying to emphasize here is that there is the support that students can access at any time online to help them possibly with that new way of working to obviously ensure that they can get the best grade possible and again become accustomed to that. Next slide, please, Alex. And then just briefly back to some of the more in-person support that we have at the University of Sheffield. There's a couple of things that I just wanted to put a spotlight on here. The first one being, well, the acronym is SARMS, but that's the Student Access to Mental Health and Support. So essentially, this service helps students access the right mental health support for them from one initial appointment. And as well, this service is accessible to students at any point during their time at university. And this service is run by experienced mental health workers, again, to help students navigate the support that's most applicable to them. Again, give them options and help to put in kind of a sustained support plan for them. And then I also wanted to just do a quick nod to departmental wellbeing staff as well. So each department at the university, so the department that sort of houses the degree subject a student might be doing, they have its own wellbeing staff as well. And students have access to this service, so they can book appointments with departmental wellbeing staff at any point, again, to discuss their mental wellbeing. And I think what's great about this service is it puts it into context of the degree that students are studying. So that department has a first-hand understanding of the requirements, possibly the pressures and the difficulties of that degree, and they can help tailor support around that. Perfect. So I think next slide and handing back over to Ali.
Thank you. So it's important to recognise, as your students are transitioning from sixth form or college to university, how their study will change. So you can give them some guidance as to what to expect. So they've already been through school at this point, so that's around 25 hours per week and it's very structured. And they should have experienced that transition from school to sixth form or college, where they will still have structured lessons, but they may have fewer timetabled hours, and there is more emphasis on that homework and independent study, especially when it comes to exams and the coursework which they may have if they are studying a BTEC or a T-level. So how does this differ then from university? So at uni, it will be very lectures and seminars heavy. So a lecture could have at Sheffield Hallam up to 400 students in it. It may have as few as about 40 people in it, but they do tend to be large cohorts of students where an academic will deliver information all at once. And then a seminar is quite similar to a classroom setting where you do get more opportunity to work with other students and bounce ideas off each other. We do tend to find that lectures are probably the most common form of education delivery, and then each lecture usually has a follow-up seminar as well. In terms of how frequently the students are in university, it will definitely vary depending on what course they are studying. However, they can expect to be in around 5 to 30 hours per week. The courses which are around 30 hours per week do tend to be your courses what are very placement heavy, such as your teaching and your healthcare courses. Now, at university, there is a huge emphasis on independent study. So please make sure your students are aware of that when they're starting to look for their universities. And as a general guide, we would say that for of every hour of time they spend in a lecture or a seminar, we would expect an hour of independent study as well. So that is something the students need to be aware of. Now, if you could pop to the next slide for me. Over to you.
Perfect. Thanks, Ali. So again, I think that the key word to take out of this session is kind of independent or independence. So I'm just going to place a little bit of focus now on independent learning, how that kind of looks in action at university. Look at the process behind that from, okay, what are the key skills? How do students sort of thrive at independent learning, and how does it help them to sort of prepare for an upcoming assessment that they might do as part of their course? And again, how are they able to get the best out of this? Because kind of learning at university, of course, we're able to draw on similarities to college and sixth form. But again, the word independent, yes, it can maybe seem a little bit daunting, but at the same time, it's an absolutely crucial time, and it's a great opportunity for students to learn and really hone skills that they can use, not just in education, but in the workplace as well. So, independent learners. So these are some of the key skills which make up independent learning, which obviously students might want to prepare ahead of university, and they will absolutely, again, practice and develop these skills within university as well. So just a couple ones here: the ability to be organized. So again, it's that free time dependent on your teaching and learning hours. As again, Ali mentioned, sort of you've got your teaching and learning, but then at the same time there is that expectation that you do your own self-directed study as part of that. Again, being proactive, absolutely key. It's about taking a lot of sort of self-initiative. It's not waiting to kind of be spoon-fed information or being told what to do. It's kind of taking the bull by the horns, taking the reins, and kind of getting things done when you realize that it needs to be done as a student. Being reflective, this is massive. So good independent learners will always look and reflect on, okay, past assessment, what went well, what didn't go quite well, what can I repeat for next time? Okay, where are my blind spots? What can I work on? And they can use that reflective practice to obviously keep then progressing and getting better grades, and become more accustomed again to that teaching and learning at university as well. They're absolutely committed. So again, independent learners, there's that time, there's that self-directed study. There's that unscheduled time. They're making the decisions at this stage about how they fill the time. So yes, to an extent, they might need to sort of crack the mental whip to make sure that they are kind of getting that required study done in their free time as well. And of course, being motivated kind of underpins a lot of the skills that I've already mentioned. So it's down to the learner again to be able to self-motivate, to ensure that they are consistently using their free time to the best of its ability. And of course, I think what's really important to consider alongside that is being resilient. So again, independent learning, that independence at university, it will be very new to a lot of your students. It's not necessarily always going to be kind of, plain sailing. There will be times where it seems a little bit hard. They might feel a little bit confused. They might not know necessarily where to go to get help. So the ability to kind of be resilient and to sort of, again, acknowledge that sometimes things aren't always going to go well, but knowing that you can address it, you can get a plan in place, and you can sort it again, being resilient, that's a key skill. And what I do want to say is we've already mentioned about support. Again, there's so much support available at universities to help students with this independent learning. So when you are kind of advising your current students, it's really placing an emphasis on that. I think that's quite important. Next slide, please, Alex. Perfect. So higher level study at university. So Ali has already kind of referred to some of this, but again, I'm now going to be concentrating on the process of then study, what that means in terms of after student study, how do they prepare for an assessment, what that might look like. Yes, it's going to differ course to course, but I guess this is kind of like a little bit of a blueprint of what that could look like. So what does higher level learning look like? So of course, lecture-based delivery, we've already referred to that. Increased independent study, again, that makes it a higher level learning experience. Students will also gain more ownership of their studies. So you might come across keywords when students are looking at courses, such as optional modules that they might choose to take. They can often be quite autonomous in how they do their assessments, how they might shape it. So again, that's sort of a characteristic of students having more ownership of their studies. Again, increased pace of learning. This is definitely one. Maybe when compared with what the pace of learning's like at sixth form or college. Again, students might, for example, spend sort of maybe half an academic year focusing in on one topic or time period. I mean, I'm thinking more along the lines of subjects maybe such as English and history. But again, at university, it's not unusual to necessarily cover just one topic within a week and then move on to the next one. So the pace of learning in some situations can increase. And greater depth of knowledge, I think that's a key one. Students are hopefully going to choose a degree, a course that they're passionate about. They really want to, they enjoy it, but they want to delve deeper. There's that room to kind of really increase their knowledge base, become almost a subject matter expert within that area. So of course, the degrees are designed to help students really delve a lot deeper into a particular subject. Perfect. If we can move on to the next slide, please, Alex. Amazing. So what I wanted to now place a little bit of emphasis on, again, looking at the process of independent learning, teaching and learning at university. Another key difference is independent research. Again, students will be used to doing this to an extent at college and sixth form as part of their assessments, and after they've had their scheduled sort of classes and tutorials and everything else. But a key difference at university within independent research is how, again, you might prepare for assessments. So again, students, they'll attend a lecture. As part of that lecture, they are likely, well, they should be hopefully taking some pretty comprehensive notes, and that helps form the basis for them to do additional research. Now, a lot of this depends on, okay, what type of assessment are students researching for? So if it's an essay, if it's an exam, or even if it's a presentation, again, when they're doing further research, they might want to be selective as to what kind of sources of information they use to do that further research, which help then forms the basis of the assessment that they're about to do. So yeah, they might be quite selective based on the task in hand in terms of the right research source. So again, we've got some examples on screens. On the screen. So it's not necessarily always a book. They might use the internet. They might use an academic web page. Again, they might use illustrations from graphs. Lots of kind of academic articles and journals are over podcasts now, so they might use that. Again, depending on the subject, they might even use videos as well, for example. So you can see here, depending on the task in hand and the information sources available, students can really be quite eclectic here, explore different sources and see what works for them the best. Again, what works for them the best, and then also what's the most applicable for the task in hand for the assessment that they're preparing for. Next slide, please, Alex. Now, this is a big one at kind of a university in terms of a key sort of difference. So obviously students at university, as part of their teaching and learning, preparing for an assessment, they'll do their own independent research. But I think when they're really wanting to really put a good piece of work together, sort of get the best grade possible, it's all about, okay, how effective is this research? How effective is the information that I'm getting from this information source? Is it fit for purpose? So as an independent learner, you need to be really evaluating the things such as the validity, accuracy, and the reliability of the information, because that's going to help determine the quality of work that they can then essentially churn out. So as you can see on screen, there's some key questions here, and these are the types of questions that students should be asking themselves when they are using a research source. Again, it's almost like a bit of a criteria. Again, it's a little bit of a tick list for them. So what I mean here, as a student, again, they might source a piece of research from, say, a web page, and they might think, yeah, great, that's perfect. That gives me what I need to sort of help me write my essay. But let's just say the information was taken from a source such as Wikipedia, which we know is very easily accessible. They might be thinking, yes, great, I've got the information I need. But the issue is with Wikipedia, it's not sort of robust, it's not valid, it's not reliable, it's not accurate. Whereas if they were to go to an academic journal, which is had an article that's been produced by kind of an expert in that field, that it's more likely to be accurate, reliable, and valid. And again, that's going to set the basis, if you're using that research in your work, to obviously churn out a better piece of work. And then this is the key question here in the speech bubble on the screen. It's always about students asking themselves the question, sort of, so what? And what I mean by that is, again, you can have the most intricate, interesting, valid, amazing source in the world. Again, it could be done by an expert in the field. It could just be absolutely perfect. But again, part of independent learning is making that decision to think that actually, is this fit for purpose? Is it relevant for what it is that I'm trying to achieve? So you can see within sort of, teaching and learning, research, evaluating research, then preparing for assessments, students are making a lot of independent decisions there. So I guess, again, that can be quite a key difference when compared to with what they're currently used to. Next slide, please.
Okay, so another big question which we often get asked when we're out in schools and colleges is, where can students meet new people? So this often is a bit of an apprehension for a lot of students when transitioning to university. So I thought I'd point you in the direction of a students' union, because the students' union is run by students for students, and they're the place who are going to advocate for a student's needs whilst at university. How Hallam's Students' Union works is that it is independent from the university. It's a registered charity, even though it is part of Sheffield Hallam. So they do have a level of autonomy there. So why is a students' union important, and what do they do? So the first thing that Hallam Students' Union has is it's home to our societies and events. Now, this is a huge one if you've got students questioning where they can make friends and meet new people when they go to university. So we have 3 different types of societies. We have social societies for anything and everything, really. We have liberation societies, and we have academic societies. If we don't have a society for you, a student, providing they've got some people which can help them start the society, they're more than welcome to put in a proposal to start their own society. Now, the second thing that a students' union does is it runs student campaigns. Now, very recently, our students' union, they ran a campaign for the cost of living crisis. And from that, they've put some interventions in place, such as They now provide free sanitary ware. We have our community shop where we take food and we make sure it's repurposed. So any student that may not be able to afford food, they're more than welcome to come to our community shop. So it's initiatives like that that really look out for the best interests of students. And then we've got wellbeing and support services. Now, I touched on quite a few of those earlier, but again, a students' union is home to wellbeing and support services, and you are always more than welcome to go there for any advice and signposting to any alternative services you may need. And then the final thing that our Students' Union is home to is our sports teams. So Team Hallam lives within the Students' Union, and again, you can join a sports team at a bit more of an elite level. So if you are very good at your sport, you can try out for one of our teams, or you can join it at a social level as well. Now, again, the sports teams are a really good place where you can signpost students to meet new people. All of the societies, events which we run, and our sports teams are all currently live on the Hallam Students' Union website, and we do often signpost students to it so that they can get a bit more ahead of the game and find out what they would like to join when they come to university, and start putting in those plans if they think they want to make their own as well. Next slide, please.
Perfect. So yeah, back to me. So again, how can sort of students make friends at university? So again, I think part of the support system that students do have at university is, of course, the types of services that they can access. But again, their peers, they form a great part of the social experience, and again, part of that support network, to again help them sort of become accustomed to that change of going from sixth form or college to university. So how can students make friends at university? Well, in addition to a lot of the things that Ali's just mentioned, well, flatmates and course mates. So again, really common ways for students to make friends. So of course, if students do move into accommodation, they are going to have flatmates in a similar position. Let's just say they're a commuting student that doesn't live in student accommodation. They've obviously got their course mates. Again, straight away you've got that basis of sort of common ground because you're doing the same course. You've got those similar interests, so that's quite a good way to sort of spark kind of new friendships in that sense. And again, clubs and societies. So these are all run through our Students' Union at the University of Sheffield. We offer over 350. In a moment, I'll just tell you a little bit about some of the weird, wonderful, quirky, and amazing societies that are out there. Because again, anything you could imagine, there probably is a society that does exist. And then we've also got Give It a Go. At the University of Sheffield. So again, it's either a very cheap or free way to try new things. That's towards the start of the student's time at university. And again, none of these kind of give it a go activities requires an individual to sort of be a professional. It's about sort of having a laugh and meeting new people and having a good time. And then residence life as well. So these are opportunities for students in uni accommodation to take part in activities, sports events, fundraising, volunteering, do film nights, for example, five-a-side football, dance, cultural celebrations. So again, as part of the residency, there are those social opportunities as well. And again, a great sort of way for students to meet new people and also supplement their income as well is through sort of part-time work or even volunteering. Again, good way to meet people outside of your immediate environment. And again, it's giving you that experience of what that world of work is like if students haven't necessarily experienced that yet. And as part of the university service at most universities, there's a comprehensive careers service that they can access to help them access work whilst at university, but then also sort of beyond after they graduate in the future. Next slide, please, Alex. And then briefly, I'm not going to list all of these out, but here are just some of the examples that we have at the University of Sheffield. So when I said before that societies, they're weird, wonderful, quirky, amazing, things you might not have thought of. I mean, hopefully what you can see on screen kind of helps to justify that. We've got, let me just get a couple out here. We've got a belly dance society. We've got a legal hackers society. Um, we've also got a bummit committee, whatever that means. So that literally shows you the sort of variety of sort of different societies that students can get involved in, meet new people based on their interests and based on the things that make them tick. Next slide, please, Alex.
So another thing that is frequently asked by students and teachers and advisors when we do go out to schools is how do we support students with their accommodation? Because again, it can be quite complex, the process of getting accommodation and getting your head around it and how it works at each individual university. So you can be more informed when having these conversations with your students. I thought I'd give you a bit of an overview as to how the accommodation services work at Hallam. So if a student has applied to Sheffield Hallam, they can apply through our accommodation services team for accommodation within Sheffield Hallam, and we use 14 different properties within Sheffield. Our accommodation services team is a dedicated team that can have one-on-one conversations and answer any questions that a student may have or what you may have as a teacher or advisor as well. So the accommodation services team is also present at things like open days where you can go and have one-to-one conversations with them as well as the accommodation. The majority of them, not all 14, but the majority do tend to open their doors on open days as well. So students can go in and have a look around themselves to make sure that they're picking the right accommodation for them because they will be living there for the full year. So we want to make sure they're in the right accommodation for their needs as well. So as an overview, we have 14 different properties within Sheffield, and we cover all sorts of types of accommodation. So we have the luxury ones, we have the middle ground, and we have the more budget options. Off the top of my head, and this is a rough approximate, I believe that it's £91 for next year's accommodation, I believe. Please don't quote me on that one, but that is what I think our budget accommodation is pricing themselves at next year. And then in terms of accommodation cost, it will obviously vary depending on what type of accommodation the student wants to go for, but all of our halls will have bills fully included. Additionally, if you source your halls through our accommodation services team, you do get free comprehensive insurance through that. So it's really important that you make sure that you're going through the university's relevant accommodation services team so you can take advantage of that. We do have a guaranteed room offer for all first year students, and we do try our best to match students with like-minded people if you are going through our accommodation services team. Now, this feeds into exactly what was just discussed in terms of making friends whilst at uni. If you have flatmates, they are a great point of contact in terms of people to make friends with because you are sharing that life experience together. We do try to put people in halls who are similar of age in terms of similar courses and interests. Now, in terms of the quality of our accommodation as well, all of the accommodation which we work with at Hallam are SNUG regulated, which means that SNUG is a service run by Sheffield Council, which means that the accommodation has to be to a certain standard to get SNUG accreditation. So the quality of the accommodation must meet that. Within your accommodation as well, you may have access to various support services depending on which one you're stopping at. And 13 out of 14 of our halls of residence this year all have ensuite bathrooms as well. Okay, next slide, please.
And I just wanted to do a quick nod to the different types of accommodation that are available. On screen are some of the accommodations that we do provide at the University of Sheffield. So I think the important thing is that students have a choice. Again, Ali mentioned about all the different types of accommodation in terms of what they can provide for a student. And I think what's quite clear is there's always something out there depending on what a student's sort of preference and what their requirements are. So at the top of the screen, you can see our Encliffe residents and our Ranmore residents. So they're almost like mini towns within sort of the campus. So they're almost like sort of mini villages. Obviously, you've got your flats, you've got the rooms, you've got the shared spaces with the kitchens and everything else. You've also got on-site shops. You've also got an on-site catering outlet. So it's kind of, as you can see, it's kind of like a mini town or village in that sense, because it's got everything that you need contained within that one place. Equally, the city accommodation, so it's sort of flats that are available dotted around the city within an immediate vicinity of the university as well. And of course, there is always the option to go into private accommodation. That's more commonly sought out in the second year, but again, students will have the opportunity, if they wish to move into private accommodation, and they'll often do that with sort of course mates or other friends that they've made at university. So I think the important thing to kind of flag here is that there is choice, and again, it depends on, you know, what type of experience the student wants. Next slide, please, Alex.
Okay, now a little bit of an overview about student funding and different support that's available. So just to recap, the tuition fee for university remains at the 9,250 mark, and students can also apply for a maintenance loan alongside that, which is means tested against household income. Students can apply for their student funding up to 9 months at the start of their academic course. However, we would recommend always applying for that student finance as soon as possible, so you can make sure that it is there in place for the start of your course. Now, there are additional government grants as well, which some students do choose to access, and you can see them there on your screen. Probably the most common one which students do apply for at Hallam is the Disabled Student Allowance, and that is like an additional application on top of your tuition fee and maintenance loan. I want to draw your attention to that one because it is super important that the student applies for Disabled Student Allowance as soon as possible, because it does take up to 3 months, possibly longer, depending on how many applications they're having for that funding. So please make sure you apply for that as soon as possible, or you're encouraging the students to apply for that as soon as possible, so it can be in place for the start of their course. And then you've got university-specific scholarships and bursaries. So you can see a few of the Hallam ones on your screen there. Again, these are additional on top of your tuition fee and maintenance loans. Not every bursary or scholarship is financial either. So our performance athlete support program, what you get there is things like additional time in terms of exams and assignments to account for that you're practicing a sport at a high level. So it just gives you a little bit more leeway, and you get access to different sports services at the university as well. And then finally, I wanted to touch on the NHS Learning Support Fund. So a student could get access to an additional £5,000 per year, up to 5,000. And then social work, it's a slightly different process in terms of how much funding you get as well. But it is there to help with funding for travelling to placements, as well as any additional purchases you may need to make as part of doing your placements within the NHS. So it's a great pot of funding if you do support any students that are wanting to go into a healthcare or social care course. Okay, next slide, please. Additionally, we do get asked the question a lot of, can students do part-time work to supplement their income whilst they're at university? And the answer to that question is yes. Nobody is going to stop students taking on additional work. However, we wouldn't recommend that a student works any more than 15 hours during term time per week, because at the end of the day, the student is at university to be at university, not at work. So we really do want to make sure that the students are focusing on their studies and not working every hour of the day. With students who are on placement as well, such as healthcare students, they might find it a little bit more tricky to do things like part-time work around their studies, just because of the amount of placement hours they'll be doing. Typically, they will shadow a professional within the NHS, and they may have to replicate the hours that that professional they're shadowing does. So they may find themselves working quite a lot of placement hours. So typical roles students undertake are things like retail and bar work. However, there are campus jobs as well at Sheffield Hallam. So at the moment, we currently have student ambassadors and activity officers, which support with the delivery of different services at the university. So that is always an option as well. And the bonus of working for a university is that we obviously recognise that we have students working for us, so we can be a little bit more flexible in terms of around their course. Okay, next slide, please. So I did want to touch on our scheme called To Progress. Now, this is a service which supports a student's transition from sixth form or college to university. Now, you can see in the box on the bottom right hand side is the groups that we support within the To Progress scheme. They're all listed there, and if a student is from one of those groups, they can take part in the To Progress scheme. What they get is access to a one-to-one point of contact at the university, and they can ask any questions they would like to this point of contact, as well as receiving a contextual offer made based on the student's predicted grades. If you want to click on for me. Again, the To Progress scheme, lots more information about this can be found on the Sheffield Hallam website. And again, you're more than welcome to get in touch with Sheffield Hallam if you would like more information about this. But one thing that is really important to note is that for a student to gain access to the To Progress scheme, they will require a nomination from a teacher, advisor, or professional to come onto the scheme. Okay. Next slide, please. Yep, and this is just about our contextual offers. So these are made based on predicted grades at Hallam. Okay, that's next one. Perfect. Over to you.
Grand, cheers. So yeah, the last little bit from me. So sort of similar to the support offered at Hallam for students from certain underrepresented groups in higher education at the University of Sheffield. We offer a support service in a scheme called Access Plus. So again, you can see on screen now students that have different sort of circumstances which match the ones on screen can access Access Plus. And obviously, as part of this, we do acknowledge that there may be intersections in students' lived experiences. So again, it often can be very context specific, and we do very much appreciate that. Next slide, please, Alex. So what does Access Plus look like? So as part of the scheme, students can absolutely get a contextual offer alongside a standard offer for a given course that they apply to. So as part of Access Plus, the contextual offer is equivalent to 1 grade below the standard A-level entry requirement for the course that they're applying for. And for that contextual offer to stand, students will have need to have made Sheffield their firm choice with UCAS. Again, as part of Access Plus for these students, there is a lot of transition support that students can access ahead of kind of going on to study at university, as well as, again, that support that they can specifically access at university as well. So again, they will get access to an Access Plus travel bursary. So that travel bursary helps to fund things such as travel to open days, offer holder days. If the course requires an interview as well, the travel bursary can cover that. So it's supporting that journey to university. There's a specific team on hand to answer any questions at any point during that transition period. And the Access Plus team runs very kind of specific live virtual sessions, again, covering the different parts of transition to university to help those students. And as well, this is kind of hot off the press. We've recently launched our Access Plus Transition Mentor Scheme. So students at various points of their kind of transition to university will be able to access a mentor. So a mentor is a fully trained current student at the University of Sheffield, again, to kind of mentor them through that transition period between where they're at a given time to when they get to university. And they also get to access an IT and equipment bursary as well to help fund different resources relating to that for when they do get to university. And as well, they have a specific contact within the student experience, diversity and inclusion team as part of that support scheme. Next slide, please, Alex. Awesome. I think that brings everything to a close. So on behalf of me and Ali, thank you so much for accessing this session. And yeah, we hope you have a great evening.
Thank you, everyone. And do please feel free to contact either university if you have any further questions.
Thank you.
And I'll stop recording there.